Today, Kat and I drove about 2 hours away from Chicago to go to Paxton, Illinois. We're actually right here at Silver Tree Spirits. They're doing some pretty cool stuff, and they're small-scale production, but from what we hear from a source that we really trust, they're doing some really cool stuff, so we're going to go in and check out this awesome family-owned business. Hi.
Welcome to the workshop.
Hi, I'm Chris.
Dallas, how's it going?
Pleasure to meet you. So, Dallas, we've heard a lot about your facility from somebody whose palate we really trust. We'd love to hear it straight from you. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, so about us, so me, my two older brothers, and younger sister own Silver Tree Spirits here in Paxton, Illinois. We're actually fifth generation farmers.
Nice.
So we grow all the grain on our farm just outside of town, bring it in and distill. So we're grandpa and dad used to feed cattle with it, all the grain that they grew, and that was, dairy milking and all that was their value added. Our value add is now whiskey, so that's what we take our grain and distill everything. So all of our products are 100% our grain. It's an older building, actually it goes back to 1872 for the records I can find, and they stabled horses here for the hotels on Main Street. Then it actually made the paper in 1892 as the fanciest livery south of Chicago because it got bricked. So along this brick, we brought it back up. It was covered up. We were like, why are you hiding such beautiful brick?
Yeah.
Opening that, and for most of the building's life, it was a Ford dealership. So we're currently standing in the old showroom display, and this is where our bar's being built at. So all of us have multiple jobs. We like to keep our hands busy because, I don't know, maybe it's a form of ADHD or something. We just gotta always be working. We like to keep busy. Yeah, so we're definitely trying to bring it back to the historical value where the building is, and as well as highlight things here in Paxton. So, like I said, we like to make a lot of the things. We've been building our bar. The brick that was used for the bar here and also filling in some of the old display windows came from a building across the alley, which was a concert venue. They had to open up, so they had to tear out a wall, and we took that wall and started becoming brick masons because why not add that to the job resume?
Yeah.
And woodworkers and all that. So we cut the wood on our sawmills that we have back on the farm. So a lot of the trees came off the farm as well. And finished off the wood top. We're going to build out some tables.
It's also refreshing to hear that you guys are doing everything basically by hand yourselves.
Yep.
Especially with your own jobs outside of this, and that it's basically a family run endeavor. I mean, that's very refreshing in an industry that has a contract distilling, or they're by a larger conglomerate. So it's nice to see a more grassroots approach to doing everything. I know that that's pretty refreshing for me. I hope you guys enjoy that as well.
Yeah, if you look, you can clearly see that I'm wearing boots, and we'll pull them up and put the bootstraps on and get to work. So we're not afraid of that.
Yeah. Well, on that note, we'd love to see what you guys are doing here.
Yeah. Well, let's take a look. So, like I was saying, it was predominantly a Ford dealership. So as you go through, we actually move some stuff around. It's like this curved piece of glass used to be where you would sign your papers once you got a vehicle and you drive right out onto the street. My grandpa was 91, actually bought his first ever brand new vehicle here back in 1952. Yeah, he was making $1.35 an hour and bought a brand new car. This was the original parts counter. So if you needed a carburetor or something like that, this is where you come. We do tours by appointment right now, so people can actually get on our website and check us, or Facebook and check us that way. So you can see, yeah, bit of a mess. Brother was mashing, and we actually added a little bit too much water. And as you're mashing, of course, what you're doing is you're heating up that starch molecule. That starch molecule expands. So if you add too much water, as an expansion happens, it over the top. So that was a recycled dairy tank that we use for our mash. This is a corn whiskey here. You want to try it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is a yellow corn that we're doing. So right now we're experimenting with some corn whiskeys and some yeast varieties to see how they work with 100% grain. So this is 100% corn. There's no malted barley for enzymes. We're adding enzymes because it's more of an experimental batch, and we'll see how that shakes out.
And you off camera, you were telling us a little bit about it. 100% red corn, right?
Yes. So we raise a corn called Bloody Butcher. We're actually, as as far as we can find out, we're the largest grower of Bloody Butcher in the state of Illinois. And that's an open pollinated red corn that was bred pre-prohibition for bourbon and grits. And so we revitalized it back up. Actually tailored, since it's open pollinated, we manipulated it to do better in our cooler climate of Illinois, where it's a longer germination or a longer growing 3-day corn. So it's designed for the South. And we were like, well, we're in Illinois, so we're going to tailor it up a little bit. And so, yeah, so we manipulated that. My oldest brother is an agronomist by trade, so we do a lot of crop genetics and fun stuff on the farm.
Cool.
We're at 15 different crops that we play around with. So we got some buckwheat whiskeys, we got some spelt, we got some, we grew sunflowers. We're not like Alan Bishop and Old Homestead making sunshine.
Sure.
But, one day we might try the, we'll have to steal his trademark. I guarantee you
Yeah.
that one done.
I mean, not to be a little bit too on the nose here, but it kind of sounds like for this kind of business, quite literally, your family's farm raised. Like,
Yes,
you
we are
start
farm raised.
from the bottom up.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. So my other brother, he taglined our little slogan is hand grown from the ground up. Because we try to do, we're hands all the way up. We did start with contract distilling, just as you mentioned, a lot of people do, because it takes a lot of time and effort to get a distillery, get the license, get the funding. That's a big one. So we actually started with Old Monroe Distilling Company outside of St. Louis. If you haven't gone down there, you ought to try it. They're really good.
We're going to go check them out.
And so they're building out a big wedding venue, and they're doing full tours of their farm. They're one of the 4 farm distilleries that I know of in the state of Illinois. And the farm distilleries are just fun because they can tell you, oh, I planted this year, and now this is the flavor of the whiskey. Rye, for example, our ringneck rye whiskey, I can tell you exactly by nosing it and tasting it what growing year it was. So first year came off a lot more vegetative, like a sweet clover, and then it picked up a lot more fruity notes the following year growing. This last year we were dry, so it picked up a lot of, it smelled like green apple, and it tastes like, Will was getting mango, I was getting a lot of banana.
That sounds cool.
I'm hoping once you add the barrel, it comes out like a green apple tart.
Ooh.
Kind of show. Stuff we distilled in 2022, it was minty and chocolatey. So it's all fun to track. The rye's been the most enjoyable with the nuances. So our corn doesn't just as much, but it definitely does.
Sure. Rye's definitely tricky sometimes. You think it's going to go left and it goes right.
As we found out hardcore, its grain handling does have a really big impact on flavor. So open pollinated grains, such as the Bloody Butcher, open pollinated yellow corns, which if you start geeking out on corns, that's a whole rabbit hole in itself.
Absolutely.
We actually did a study with the University of Illinois, and we tried 6 different varieties of corn. So we had white corn, yellow corn, red corn, blue corn, green corn, and we categorized out just off distillate of what flavor compounds were coming from what.
Okay.
And we're running it through it's like a spectrometer. No, a spectrometer is light, but it tells you what organic compounds in it. And so we're categorizing that compound with a particular flavor, and then that to a particular corn that grows. And so people can then change their recipes based off that. Yeah, we got a red corn. We're growing some blue corn. Actually, my brother's 6-year-old son is developing a whiskey recipe.
Cute.
So he grew the corn himself, planted from seed that he found and took from my dad's pocket, planted it in the garden, harvested a couple of years. This year we're going to be doing about an acre or so of it because we got enough seed from it. And he's going to be mixing blue corn, red corn, and rye, and then aging it in hickory barrels.
Oh,
that was all his idea.
Really?
Yeah. He was the one that said, I want to do it in hickory barrels. I want blue corn, red corn, and rye.
You said he was 6?
He's 6.
That's crazy. See, I know that we've already kind of joked about it, like kind of being in the family and like, from the farm up, but like to see a 6-year-old already thinking about like what the world of whiskey could look like in a couple of years is honestly really promising.
Yeah. We've started recycling our own water. We actually took some dairy coolers and retrofitted an old tank that I got from my father-in-law to try to recycle some of that water. And then it goes into fermentation. Like I was saying earlier, the yeast that's currently on this fermentation is an experimental one. Wish I could tell you about it. I can't because Lalabin had us sign an NDA, so can't can't say on that one. But it's a fun one that gives off a lot of banana characteristics. So if you like banana Laffy Taffy,
Banana, you say?
you will like this whiskey. If you don't like banana Laffy Taffy, like myself, you're not necessarily going to be a fan, but my brother loves it. So this is our still setup here. We do a 500 gallon pot, plus we have our fermentation. As you can see, we do not have temperature control fermentation. We kind of let things do what they do. During the summer months, we'll open up the big garage door and let in some natural bacteria and stuff in there. We actually started naming some of our fermentation things. My brother likes to say this one's Dallas, that one's Clayton, that one's Will, because this one's a little bit more consistent. That one's a little bit slower on fermentation, and then that one just likes to amp up and go. So it kind of matches some of our personalities of where we get things done. And this one more regular basis. That one has a lot of flavor. Then that one can throw some funky off flavors every once in a while, just like how Will does. So, but yeah, once we're done fermenting, go into our still. Still was built in 2017. We bought it from Old Monroe Distilling once they upgraded their system. So all of our product has actually been made on this still, even when we were custom contracting out. We did have to make some modifications. So it really helps that our dad was actually a welder in the Navy, so he actually knows how to do quite a bit of welding and on stainless. So if anyone's watching this wants to start a distillery, get into, figure out welding first, because you're gonna need it. We like the proof at 110 in the barrel, because it's at that lower proof, what you're gonna be doing, because alcohol is a solvent. So if you go in at 125, you're gonna be binding that alcohol to more tannic acid. If you go in at a lower proof, what you're doing is actually combining and dissolving some of those wood sugars in the wood. And so that water is gonna dissolve that wood sugar. And so at 110, and working with Illinois' own Cooper, we can actually kind of sway some of our barrels where we do a longer toast and a shorter char to bring out more of those sugars, so that alcohol binds that sugar and allows you to sell a 100 proof product that's a little bit easier to palate than other 100 proof products that I've had over the days. So it's going to be about an hour and a half to an hour 45 on the toast.
Yeah, it's pretty long.
On that medium long with a small fire. And these are with the Illinois barrels that we do.
Okay.
We still have some standard industrial barrels that we don't dictate as well for those, but our specialty lines with the Illinois barrels we do. All that's doing is you're evaporating the water on the inside surface of that barrel and pulling more through. And so you just crystallize that sugar, and you can see it. It doesn't take a picture really well, but it just looks like a bunch of little shiny stars on the inside of that barrel. And then once you char it, if you have that longer toast, it's more of like that s'mores cooking a marshmallow flavor. So like if you eat a raw marshmallow, you get sugar, but if you char that marshmallow, you get a lot more. Well, you probably know what's the name of that flavor. It's like unami or
Umami.
Yeah, that's what you're doing.
Can I tell them about what this is? Sure. So we can't talk about the experimental yeast still, but banana, Laffy Taffy kind of flavor to it. And this is 100% red corn.
Yes.
So you have a red corn whiskey with an experimental finish on it with the yeast, and it ends up being like cinnamon and banana Laffy Taffy. And I think your brother said this is what, 125 right now? I tell you, taking a sip of this, I wouldn't get any hint of that. I would say that this tastes probably closer to like maybe 110, maybe 100. There's no burn on it. It's honestly very smooth. Just like cinnamon. It's a little oily, but not incredibly. Obviously lacking oak because it's not aged yet, but it has the banana notes to it. If you like think of like almost like a Laffy Taffy with a little bit of baking spice thrown into it, that's what this is. I'm not crazy about like 100% corn whiskey, but this is one that I would drink. If this is how good it is now, imagine in a couple of years, this is probably going to be stellar.
Yep, and that is going into used cooperage as a corn whiskey brand is, so we're able to keep back some of our barrels. We did take some up to actually get re-coopered, so they're getting the char scraped off, so they'll have a new toast, have a new char on them, still used cooperage, but we're going to see if we can kind of mimic some of those new barrel characteristics with it.
Very nice. Yeah, this is really good. I'm definitely going to put this down before I drink the whole thing. It's honestly very easy to drink.
Yeah, speaking of barrels, we'll go back here. You want your step from our spill?
Ooh.
This is where we barrel, and as well we have our mill, so grind everything on site. Right here, we have a hammer mill. I know there's probably some people that are just like, oh man, you're not using a roller. We have not had any issues with a hammer mill. Some people say it gets too hot. I've never had that happen. And we got this for $500. So I'm not gonna go sit there and spend, $1,500, $2,500 on a fancy roller mill when I can get a hammer mill just as easy. Old barrel we had, just use it as a display. So if those haven't seen it inside the barrel, we showcase the fact that they are charred and toasted. We're gonna be doing this for some fun stave projects. Yeah, so back here we store barrels. We built are building out our wooden rick system. A lot of distilleries start with these metal ricks because they're affordable and easy. But calculating out, you lose a lot of space right between them. So you lose space this way, and as well as length as you stack them. So by building out these red oak ricks here, we actually calculated out it's going to be just shy of 300 more barrels. So we should have a total barrel capacity of 986 barrels here on site with off-site storage as well. So
nice. And correct me if I'm wrong, earlier, did you say that you can yield 3 barrels a day?
Yeah, so our stills capacity is 1 barrel a day, one barrel per 8-hour shift.
Okay.
But since we got so much stuff going on, we're at about 3 barrels a week.
3 barrels a week. There we go.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, the fact that you can find the time to do that while also working your own job and I'm sure tending to your own families, because this is obviously a family affair. I respect that you're taking all your time to do this. This is clearly the end result of all of your passion and all of your care. So
I enjoy. It makes farming fun.
Yeah.
So instead of just going back and forth, you load out the corn and it goes to a grain elevator, and actually 95% of Illinois' corn goes to ethanol and cattle feed. Technically, ours is going to ethanol too, but I can, at least consume it.
Yeah, for sure. It's kind of, I work in hospitality, so I kind of equate that same idea to when the chef makes the food, but then they hand it out to people and they never see what the end result is, how people feel about it. They know how good it tastes to them, but then because you're also on the other end of it, you get to be like, no, this is actually really good. We put our heart and soul into it, and it shows with the product.
And speaking of which, if you want to talk to Gus, who's designed his own whiskey label.
Oh.
Gus, you want to be on a YouTube channel?
Yeah.
You want to talk about your whiskey?
Yeah.
All right, here, come over here. Tell them about your whiskey.
It's gonna be made of red corn and blue corn and rye, and this is my first time. And in the barrel is made of hickory, and I am only 6 years old, so.
How did you decide that you wanted to get into the same business that your family's doing?
I just thought it would be cool and fun. That's really all.
Do you have a lot of fun doing it?
This is my first time, so I really don't know. Yeah, and also I like just living on this farm here. It's nice.
Well, that's awesome. I'm glad to see that you're getting interested in the same stuff that your family has a passion about. And I also really like your jacket.
My son is 15 months. I took 50% of the grain bill from my wife's family farm, 50% from my family farm, distilled it. My brothers came in, barreled it the day he was born, and we're gonna age it out 21 years. So we're gonna pull it in. I had to put 2 barrels up. So that way, it should be about 500 bottles total, but at 21 with 3.2, 3.6 loss every year, he'll end up with about 75. So if he's a responsible adult, he'll end up being able to drink 1 bottle a year, essentially for the rest of his life.
That's awesome.
So we're invested into the next generation. That's why Gus gets to design his whiskey. It's an heirloom red corn from the mid 1800s, which is a little bit before this building was built. About the same time our family immigrated here from Ireland. It was originally bred for grits and for whiskey, so definitely all human consumption. It has a very rich, earthy flavor to it. And it's a super wild, fun corn to grow. It yields horrible. Around here, most farmers will get 200 bushel an acre or better, and we get like 60.
Oh, yeah, that's a significant difference.
Significant difference, but the flavor is very significant too. It's a lot of fun. It's really cool, and I've been breeding it, hand selecting for the last close to a decade. So adapted it to our farm. So our Bloody Butcher tastes different from another Bloody Butcher down in Kentucky or Missouri, from New York. So like this is our own strain of Bloody Butcher.
Can you tell us a little bit about like what your process was for kind of pairing it to what you like now?
Well, really the stuff that I started with just grew super tall. So the top of the corn would be taller than the combine.
Oh.
So I started by selecting for shorter corn plants. And then the ear was also super tall. So I just selected for shorter ears. And then the color was a little variable. So we ran it through a color sorter to then save seed to select for the deeper red kernels. And then the test weight was a little off. So we ran it through a gravity table and selected for denser kernels. And that's what we have now.
So like literally every desired characteristic, you basically sorted that into its own separate box and then started to use those seeds to basically get to where you are now.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And it's been a decade to start to scratch the surface.
Okay.
Like these things can take a really long time to shift. But it's a lot of fun because you can put a lot of pressure on it and it can shift and change. And it's really, the corn we have now is completely different from what we had before.
Sure.
So what I'm doing with it is we're making a corn whiskey. Did Dallas tell you about the banana?
Yeah, we actually just got a taste of it on camera a second ago.
Cool.
I honestly think it's very stellar. I think that it's probably, people that like corn whiskey are probably going to find it like very interesting and unique. People that like bourbon might like it if they like Buffalo Trace and Old Forester kind of combined with like the cinnamon and banana flavors. I think you're doing a really good job. If that's what it tastes like unaged, like a couple of years in oak, amazing.
I'm pretty excited. And it really fits my philosophy as a farmer is use what you have, try to reuse as many things as possible, and just do it all from the ground up. So we're taking the red corn that I've been breeding, putting it in used barrels as a corn whiskey with a fun flavor. I wanted to take something that, still used corn, but was as opposite of bourbon as possible.
Having put 10 years into this and you're now starting to get to the point where you can see like the next phase of like all of your hard work coming to fruition, how rewarding does it feel?
Oh, it's awesome. Yeah, it's really, really awesome. I ain't gonna lie. I have so much pride into just to see it change and adapt, and then to be, in the tractor and planting it and then tending it throughout the year, trying to keep all the weeds away and trying to make sure that, the whole ecosystem is developed so that we don't get like pest pressure, and just trying to build the whole thing around. And you finally make it into a product that people can taste and drink. And then like you see that sparkle in their eyes, like, whoa, this tastes so cool. That gets me really, really excited.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely got some of the sparkle in my eye already. I'm very interested to see what that's going to be like when it's done. How long do you think you might age it for?
I might release a little bit as a white spirit.
Okay.
But
Sold. I already tried it.
So that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then I would imagine it'll be at least bottle and bond.
Okay. Nice. So that means you guys have the bonded accreditation for this facility too?
Right.
Nice. Love that. Awesome. Yeah. That's
We
exciting.
got a future bottle and bond package already all sitting. These here are made by Crow's Head Cooperage. They're out of Monier, Illinois. He's actually the only cooperage in the state of Illinois. He is making it with barrels with his son, or two sons, and they are the first 100% Illinois sourced whiskey since Prohibition. So the grain was all grown in Illinois. The tree was in Illinois. The whiskey was distilled in Illinois. Barrel was coopered in Illinois. Even the label gets made across the alley at the print shop right there.
Nice.
And so it's a big fun one, especially since Illinois, a lot of people don't know, was made more whiskey than anywhere else in the U.S. pre-Prohibition.
Yeah.
Peoria, Illinois had 73 distilleries.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's 73.
We did a big deep dive because we're big fans of the Takamine brand, and he worked with the Illinois Trust back in the day and helped revolutionize the idea of like the malting process.
Yeah.
So we love that Illinois has like this very rich, robust background in whiskey, and it's something that not a lot of people talk about.
No. Well, as a lot of people forget, they always think of, bourbon and whiskey in Kentucky.
Yeah.
And Kentucky just happened to unionize during Prohibition. That's how they lasted through. But pre-Prohibition, 1 in 5 farmers owned a still. And it was an ag commodity. What you do is, storage at the time was a rickety old corn crib. So you didn't want to have your mice eat your grain. You didn't want to have bugs. You didn't want to have mold or anything like that. So you would run off a high supply right after fall. Once markets go down, you would take your excess surplus and you distill it. So the following year, you'd go to town and be like, I have 150 bushels of this year's corn and 3 barrels of last year's whiskey. And so it was just an agronomic product that allowed people to function. And after Prohibition, that got destroyed. There was huge surpluses of grain. They came out with subsidized like crop insurance and things. And it's reason the price of grain, if you count for inflation, hasn't changed. A farmer in 1910 profited more per acre than a farmer in 2018, if you account for inflation.
That's crazy.
And a big portion of that is Prohibition. So we like bringing that history back and able to, refill that supply chain.
Yeah, and you're definitely bringing Illinois back to its roots, especially with the idea of like a farmer actually owning their own crop, which they're putting into their own barrels. I mean, that's awesome. It's very refreshing.
Yeah, it's like I was saying, I think we're off camera at the time. It's just more fun knowing you're making a product that you can plop a bottle down and are like, I know where that feeling came from.
Well, and I take a lot of pride in it, and I put a lot of respect into that. Like, if I'm just going to go dump yellow corn at the elevator, if there's a little bit of moldy stuff that goes in it, or from like some dirt or gravel goes in it, doesn't matter. It's just going to go get blended with everyone else's corn in Illinois and go on some barge somewhere. Versus like the stuff that we're making, we have our hands in every step of the process. If something doesn't smell right, it doesn't get distilled.
Oh, you're thieving out of Tillers?
Yeah, we're thieving out of Tillers. So this is the 100% Illinois.
So you are one of like 200 people.
Ooh.
Yeah, well, 6 people to dip.
And that is a homemade
right.
thief too. So if
Love
there's
it.
any plumbers that will know that's a plumbing part of copper, not necessarily a official thief.
And go up to the bar.
Perfect. Awesome.
We've been growing this wheat variety for, at the time, it was 13 years. Now we're close to 20 years in. Our dad always, it's an open pollinated variety of wheat, so he had always collected and saved seed of what grew the best. Well, unknowingly, he actually was lowering the gluten cuts, so that makes terrible bread. But without that lower protein, it replaced it with carbohydrates. So we actually had more carbohydrates. We yield better out of it.
Nice.
Which we found out once we got into home brewing and things. So a typical wheat vodka is going to be 4 pounds of grain per bottle of vodka, and we're about 3.2. All right, and so it yields out better. And so that's, we kickstarted out on that one. We distill it twice, closer to whiskey in style. A lot of people say vodka has to be flavorless, colorless, odorless.
Only the beverage.
I don't like inviting guests over to the party that don't show up with anything. So why would your booze be this? So if you're having a cocktail, you at least got to be able to taste that it's there.
This is actually really good. I'm usually very adverse to vodka.
Most people.
I feel like also a lot of brands are like, no, ours is different, but this one actually is different. This is really good.
Next up, we do have our white whiskey. So this is at barreling proof. This is 70% yellow corn, 30% of the same wheat. So it's a wheated bourbon. Going in at 110 proof. It's our highest proof that is up on as the bottle product right now. And there's a weird cult following I've noticed with white whiskey.
Oh yeah.
Like you got people that love it or people that hate it. And the people that love it do want it hot. So we're like, all right, we're gonna give them something that has that moonshiny feel, and they can sip and enjoy the dog on it. For one, Dogtown is an area of Fort County that we grew up in. That's what I always called it.
way back when. They said they used to dump unwanted dogs there, but it's a big hunting community.
Okay.
So I think that also kind of keeps it because people are running dogs, hunting pheasants,
Yeah.
things like that. So we wanted to keep that name to it. Same with all our products. It's named to the farm somehow. Down east is actually the original farmhouse is on the west side of the farm. So every time your grandpa would go to the fields, he said, "I'm going down east." So that's what came with that. So all of our names have a tie to back to the ground we grew.
Love that. It's awesome. And this is actually really good.
Yep, 110. So it's gonna be hotter. Gonna have a little bit more bite to it. I always like doing the little hand trick for people.
Yeah.
Showcasing that one on this sample. See, most people when they stop by for a tour, they're like, "Oh,
Yeah, for sure. Unlike Cat and I, which are basically just immune to it at this point.
Yep. Next is coming up to our rye whiskey, which this is the last of it until we get more bottles, and then we're actually gonna have a 2-year dip. So, worst thing about being a farm distillery, you also have to grow the grain, and if you get a crappy crop year, you see a dip in your production. So to replace this on a shelf, we are coming out with a wheat whiskey that will be taking its spot. We have some of the barrel, or samples from the barrel of it, but it's not bottled yet. But the rye has been really fun. So it's 100% rye. Yeah, we're adding enzymes. We don't have any malted barley in there, but you're tasting that particular growth here. So we're all saying it back in the distill where we get some that are like a mint chocolate going on, some that are green apple going on. It's been a really fun experiment that has really showcased where it was grown and the conditions it's grown in more than any of our other products. So we handwrite batch numbers for rye in particular. Pay attention to that batch number, and if you like one, it's not going to be repeated. This one's fun. I like batch 2 better than batch 1. Batch 1 had a little bit more sweet clover taste to it. Batch 2 picked up. I get pitted fruit like a plum kind of thing.
Absolutely. I very rarely get like dark fruits from rye. I actually really enjoyed this, and I'm sure they heard my reaction, but I didn't want to cut you off. This is way different than every rye that we get.
You're not getting that dill pickle.
No.
You're not getting any of that.
There's like no mint, no elderflower, no dill pickle. It's just like, it's fruity. It's like not incredibly spicy, which like some people can really like kind of get deterred from rye for that reason. And again, the fact that it's 100% rye and it still drinks almost like a luscious red wine meets a bourbon. It's kind of crazy to me. Like, I've never tasted 100% rye that's this young, that tastes this good, that has like so many unique flavors that I've never picked out of the glass.
Actually, we overprinted labels that say 4 years. That's actually a 5-year whiskey. The red corn has more earth spice to it. I pick up more of like a carrot cake. And so
absolutely.
This is 60% red corn, 20% rye, 20% wheat for its mash bill.
Ooh.
That is 100% vanilla bean on the nose, like vanilla extract.
Oh. Wow, that is complex. You're sure this is 2 years?
Well, yeah, so most of it's in that 3-4 year, but there was a 2-year barrel dump.
I mean, honestly, this is really good. I mean, maybe take the proof point side of this with a grain of salt. As we discussed, I can't really sense it sometimes. I did have a little bit of white dog, but this still drinks smooth.
Yep, we're at 100 proof on this one.
Yeah, the flavor is like kind of like a nice wave of different things going on. It starts out a little spice, turns into like a little bit of like a ginger spice cake. Then I get like a little bit of vanilla to it, and then the cinnamon takes back over. This is so complex. These are honestly pretty stellar. We didn't know what to expect coming in here. We heard good things. You came to a great recommendation, and I'm honestly glad that it exceeded what we were already expecting.
Thanks. These are just the bottled ones. Now we get the little fun experimental ones.
Oh, yeah. This is going to be a long video, guys. So this is 100% wheat?
100% wheat, 110.8 proof, and 2 years old.
Honestly, no burn, really. It's honestly just a little mellow in terms of like the proof point. Again, we've had a couple pours at this point, or a couple tastings, so I'm sure it's impacting us less than it probably would. But it's soft, it's delicious. It's a little on the sweeter side, but not cloyingly sweet. I get vanilla, I get cake frosting. I get
Bubble gum.
a little bit of bubble gum,
Interesting.
but like
I did not get the bubble.
but in like the best way possible.
This would be a 3-year. This is the Crow. So this is 10% oats, blanket how much corn and rye. It is in the bourbon category. Should be 6% corn, 10% oat, and the remainder in rye. This was distilled this way because I had the grain on hand at the time.
It's bright. It's rich. It's a little peppery. I like it. The finish goes on forever, in like the best way possible.
I get carrot cake on this
Get
one
carrot
too.
cake,
Yeah. And this is 110 proof.
Yes.
Yeah, this is good.
And then up next, this is going to be getting ready to go to the bottling line. It's 4 years old. 100% oat. You're going to get a lot more vegetative floral notes, being that much. I mean, the whole is it's all vegetation, so that's going to add in those characteristics. You have more protein, you have more or less carbohydrates, so that you're stressing that yeast out during production.
This is both vegetable and fruity. I can't really figure out what fruit that I get, but it's kind of like surrounded by like piney kind of herbs.
Mm-hmm. It's a fun one. This is coming out as a barrel pick series that we have that'll only be available here.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So here is the tillers. This is equal parts, so 25, 25, 25, 25. Our red corn bourbon, our rye, our wheat, and our oats.
All right, I'm into that. So this one, you're doing a blend at barreling rather than doing like
Yeah. So we're grinding it all together, mashing it all, going into the barrel, all just at equal capture parts.
I mean, honestly, this is very pleasant. I can see the harmony now that we've tried basically everything that you have. I see the harmony of all the flavors. They kind of pick up where the other one falls, and I'm still getting the finish of it.
Yeah.
Like it's still going. Like
This one we did a little bit lower, so it's 106, but that was because in order for us to fulfill all the barrels, and since those were made at that cooperage, we didn't want a half barrel, a special barrel. So
Yeah.
we were like, we'll go in at 106 and fill them all the way full, give them all that surface contact, and let them age out. So it is December 9th of 2024. It turned 4 years. We won't release it until it's like 5 years.
This is delicious.
It's my favorite. I'm biased.
So
You've never had it before, so you're not biased.
Yeah, I mean, definitely not. This is definitely the one that I was like, this is what we were told we have to try. Hopefully it's as good as people say it is. Honestly, even better. I hope that this is one that, like, as soon as you purge the stock that you have now, you're just, like, trying to flip a new batch.
Yes, and it's going to be unique because, I mean, majority of this is set to be a 10-year. We had a 2-year, 5-year, and majority is going to be a 10-year.
This has been an amazing experience. We've enjoyed getting to check out your facility. I mean, seeing the 6th generation potential distiller.
Yeah, well, second distiller, 6th generation farmer.
Or sorry, 6th generation farmer, 2nd generation distiller. That kid is sharp.
For 6 years old. This guy is already growing the crop now, so he can have it.
Yeah, you guys are definitely going to need like constant supervision when he's a teenager. He's going to be way too smart for his own good.
We got door codes. So.
Well, thank you so much, fellas. I really appreciate you.
Yeah, Chris, thanks for coming.
We've really enjoyed this. I mean, if you are in Illinois or you're driving through, I mean, stop in Paxton.
Yep, Paxton, Illinois, right on 57, 45, and Route 9. Really easy to get to.
Appreciate the address to make people find it a lot easier. We'll also put the drop here and in the video itself for the description, so you guys can come and check it out too. Once they're open, until they are, call and do some tours. Worth checking out. Really great people, really good product, humble, honest, hardworking, and doing really good stuff.